I'm just pushing some blocks around. No, I'm making a block out for this block that we're doing right now.
Cool. And then Connor is over here. Connor, what are you going to be doing today?
I'm big on scripting, so I'm going to see how far we can get into the basics of a Halo RPG, the first element of which will be the Boctagon. You're going to enter the room, fight some bots, and get some experience. I hope.
I heard the Boctagon. Is that? That's right. All right.
All right, if we could cut on over to Foge's point of view, I'd love to see him start breaking down detachment here. I saw you starting to pull apart a couple pieces. What are you looking at?
So the main thing here with attachment, I'd say the most obvious one is, all these large wires going all the way out across into the map, outside the map. And from inside the map, it really forms this nice kind of shot of these cables that are going all over the place. And when you, actually look at what this piece is, if you scale it all the way down to its normal size, you pretty much realize that it's only the size of a Spartan, but, essentially scaling things in unique ways, on different axes, allows you to really kind of push how big this piece can be and how it can actually be used in multiple different ways, rather than just its intended small wire purpose.
Scaling, one of the best features that we've brought over to Halo Infinite. You want to talk a little bit about scaling?
Sure. Scaling, it's new to Forge. It's one of the things that you'll see in other dev tools. It's just a core feature. It's allowed us to lessen the number of objects in the object browser. It just gives you a lot of flexibility. You just start with one object. You can scale it any way you want, from tiny to huge. Obviously, this is a great example. And you can change materials too. You could make that look somewhat differently. And so now we've got Cliff doing a block out. So Cliff, what are you thinking about right now? When you start out, what's sort of your goal with this?
For this one, I don't know. I'm having a lot of different things rushing through my mind. I'm kind of wanting to make a 2v2 city meets Hingham High type of vibe. Right now I'm kind of wanting to make this water or using this water for a canal, or to kind of help to define the bottom of the map, and then have a bridge works across it. So yeah.
Cool. So do you kind of see the whole block out in your head and then just and then recreate that, or you kind of do a corner and then sort of improvise from there?
It depends. There's not a blanket statement for level design. Right now, I'm kind of just going. I've been kind of tossing around something in my head the last couple of days. Sometimes you can be thinking about it for months on end and having a hole start to burn in the back of your head with what you're trying to achieve for a level. But right now, I'm more freeform right now.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you. We've put a time limit on these guys, so already looking good though.
Infinite, I see you starting to get a scene put together here. We would call this a beauty corner. What are you first going after as you start to lay this out?
I'm trying to just get the composition right, so I'm going to focus on pretty much framing the ring here, which is on the arid canvas, in this ring right here, and then get the warthog, basically, like a chief pulling up to a little waterfall, and he explores, and you see the big, massive vista in the background. Something that's pretty traditional, but I focus on the big shapes first, try to get the composition right, and then from there, I start detailing. But since I'm kind of on a stricter time here, I'm just kind of grouping everything here prior, and then I'm taking all of that and just spamming it everywhere, but not spamming it. I'm putting it in specific locations just to make sure that I'm moving as fast as I can. So, yeah.
This looks amazing already.
It's really coming together.
5 minutes in. Ship that. That looks great. Hey, I wanted to say, if you have questions, we're trying to keep this kind of interactive. So there's people over here in this corner of the stage. While these guys are doing it, we'll try and field some questions about Forge or questions for them. So come on up, talk to Alex here. He'll help you out.
Ooh, looks like we've already got.
Yeah, we already have a taker.
We got some takers.
Howdy, Cliff. What would be some things you would recommend for people starting level design or Forge in general? Whether it be like when it comes to blockouts.
Can you say that again? I'm sorry.
Specifically directing the question to Cliff or anyone on the stage, I guess.
Advice for new forgers?
Advice for newer forgers starting blockouts or starting maps in general.
Advice for new forgers, yeah.
First off, if you meet a guy named Squally DeBeans, don't listen to his advice, because he will tell you to delete his map. No, I mean, like, for new Forge, I'm trying to think now. I'm on the spot. Be open to criticism. A lot of times, I've been definitely fallen to victim here, but be open to allow your map to be criticized, and don't let your feelings get hurt from that, and take that feedback in and iterate and grow and keep growing. Because a lot of times I've seen some other individuals where it'll affect them and they stop. So that's going to be my best advice for a brand new forger.
That's sound advice. I agree with that.
Oh, we got quite a few
question.
takers. Yeah. Let's do it.
Hello. Will there ever be an opportunity to use our own custom materials and models, assets? Is that something that's even possible?
I think it's possible. I think it'd be a long way down the road. There's moderation concerns for that kind of stuff. I think modders are going to figure out ways to do that themselves. So there's definitely going to be a mod community that'll do that already. But as far as integrating that into the live product and what other players see, I think that's going to be something we need to think about down the road.
So I have a question from the Machinima side of the community. Would there ever be a chance to place weapons on map with skins already on them so that we don't have to do the body actor shuffle where you have to make sure that this person has this weapon skin specifically so that they can play this character? Because for Machinima stuff, you just dump the weapons in a corner and you have all the people spawn in the map, and then you grab the weapon you need and run to the scene. But spawning with the skins on would make that really, really easy. Any chance of Infinite's Forge having something like that in the future?
Customization. So the question is, can you have customization applied in Forge? That way you don't have to put customization on per character or per weapon. Okay.
I think it's kind of a tricky situation, right? Because players go through the battle pass and they earn that stuff, and that's the way they want to look. And then you get an experience, and now this experience is dictating that you're going to look a different way than you've chosen to represent yourself in the game. So right now that's not feasible. Longer term, again, if players want it enough, I think we can consider that, but we do have to take that kind of stuff into account.
Good question. Thank you.
Yeah, great question.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Want to take another?
Yeah, let's keep doing it. Yeah.
We'll give these guys a little bit of a
Yeah,
buffer to get ahead of the game.
All right, hi there. My question is 343 planning to host like forging competitions to add more maps into matchmaking? So like, kind of like 343 favorites, so then just so we can have more maps, or just even a specific playlist of just community curated forge maps?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we'd be silly to not consider all of that, right? Some things are in the works. Some things are obvious answers, so we just need to get some time. We need to get Forge out in the wild so players can actually make the content, right? But yeah, all those are, I totally want to do those things.
Yeah, we are going to have 343 recommended, similar to Halo 5 in the game as well. But we also, in Halo 5, we did a Forge competition, and we sent the winner to the Halo World Championship, actually. So definitely have done it before and would love to do it again.
Sounds like a great idea for sure.
Hello again. So in the past, I remember there was like a Donkey Kong situation in Halo 3, and then I think I just remember these maps that there's a lot of non-phased objects, that there's a lot moving, almost as if it's like a tornado or it's a hill. I forget what the name of that
Dynamic.
Dynamic, yeah.
With normal physics.
Yeah,
is
so
probably
I'm
what we're talking
wondering
about.
if we'll have a pluffer of those, and I have a fan that would love a yes or no. Will there be invisible vehicles?
Invisible vehicles, longer term, those didn't make it, but obviously there's a high utility there, right? In terms of dynamic objects and normal, you do have a budget in the map. I think it's around 1,100 dynamic objects or something like that. But you will be able to change an object to dynamic, set its physics to be normal, and then it'll respond to whatever physics are going on in the map. Cheers.
Thank you.
Hi. So given with the new amount of tools, such as the node-based scripting system and in this Forge mode, will the community be seeing additional tools on top of that, such as, for example, maybe a splitting tool to creating roads, paths, rivers, etc., or a live shader editor, anything like that?
We will be expanding Forge with specific tools and community-requested tools. I don't know if we'll ever get to a terrain editor. If you were here yesterday, you saw that was on my wish list. That in particular is a pretty massive feature. There's a lot of things that have to go right that you got to put into that. But if there's, if players are making experiences that demand that, of course we're going to consider that. We just have to consider that next to all the other things that everyone wants too. Cheers.
Before we take this one last question, I'm going to jump over to Foge here, who said he's got something he wants to show us. So if we could jump over to Foge's screen, we can take a look at this reverse engineer of detachment.
Is he re-arting detachment?
So, when you're running past this wall, you see it as like a wall panel, but when you actually go and look at what the object is and you rotate it, you'll see that it's actually a pallet of hydrogen bottles flipped upside down, scaled in very odd ways to eventually get this odd-looking scaled thing, but it makes a very nice wall piece, and many of these wall pieces in the level are actually all these hydrogen barrels. So, and they're also hidden up here, kind of like piping in the ceiling, and it's just a very unique way of arting up walls, and then just simple decal adding to spice it up a little bit, and it's much better than a flat wall like that.
This actually reminds me, I'm always amazed with how forgers use the objects or abuse the objects in the object browser. There was a time in development, I don't remember if it was Argyle or Detachment, but Evan, who's one of our Forge content designers, was using he had taken a trash dumpster and he had squeezed it flat and he had put it on the wall. And our lead MP designer was like, "This looks cool, but I can still tell it's a trash dumpster." So you have to change it. So it's funny when those things happen. And obviously we found another object that doesn't. Did you find the trash dumpster in it? Yeah.
Oh,
you're
got
in trouble.
You got it there.
Evan's in trouble now.
That's incredible.
So the feedback was ignored. That was on cue.
All right, I think we could go ahead and take the question we've got. Yeah.
Hi. If we could go back in time to the initial stages of developing Forge, what were some of the questions you asked yourself and your team that served as a guiding light, so to speak, when you're gathering the requirements to create this kind of software?
Yeah, it's a good question. So there was a lot of existing designs, or there's a wish list, right? I had a personal wish list. Tom French had a wish list. The designer before me had a wish list. There's dozens of community wish lists that we looked at, and we kind of looked at all those, looked at their kind of the bang for the buck. What do they bring to the experience? Are they a very specific thing that players want, or is it a more broad, useful tool? And then, of course, we put those in a list and we figured out how expensive those are going to be to make, right? Some of these things, like I was saying earlier, like a terrain editor, that's a huge investment. And so, we only have limited time, right? So that was kind of our guiding light, is like figuring out sort of what we could do in the time that we had allotted that made the most impact to the tool, right? and then also making sure that the tool was extensible. So after the fact, so after in 2 weeks, right, Forge is going to go live. After the fact, we can go, okay, now we're going to add these things that we didn't have time for, or the things that the community wants. Cheers.
All right, I think we're due for a check-in. Michael, you want to see what Cliff is up to over there?
Yeah, let's
Cliff
see
and Connor?
where you at, Cliff. How's it going?
I'm going pretty good, just hanging out. Right now, I'm just drawing a lot of inspiration from Connor sitting next to me. So this is like really speaking to his inner spirit animal.
Some synergy here. It's looking like a cool corner. It's got the classic. It's got the 45 degree, the 90 degree, everything that you'd want from a Halo map.
Cliff, I got a question for you. Do you normally start with like symmetrical or like asymmetrical in mind when you start designing these maps?
Depends on the mode I'm wanting to do. So if it's CTF, obviously it's symmetrical. But if it's going to be like more of a Slayer or Oddball or King of the Hill or Strongholds, I will be more leaning towards that asymmetry. So,
thank you.
So Cliff, I got one question for you. How often, so we have edit, test, and play mode. How often are you switching between those modes to kind of polish the experience in this corner?
yeah, so test mode, since I'm in the early state of the blockout, I'll be going back and forth in test mode quite a bit because I can be able to keep position my camera, understand my player height, and then move over to the other side of the map. But when I get more to it being close, I'm going to start putting spawn points, and then I'll go into play mode to see how everything feels. So if I have anything dynamic in it, if I have movable barrels or explosive or equipment or anything like that, that's when I'm going to be using the play mode.
Perfect.
And then what's Connor up to over there?
Yeah, let's check in on Connor.
Okay, Connor says he wants
Okay, he
five
wants
more
a
minutes,
little
so
more
we'll jump
time.
on over with Infinite Forges. I'm going to sit down with you and see if
Let's
I can
get
take
casual.
a look and relax a little bit and enjoy the view. What are you up to over here?
Using things the way I should not be using them right now. I'm using an energy effect to essentially create the facade of water and build a waterfall. So that's what I'm starting on right now. And you can kind of see the shot that I'm setting up a little bit with the Warthog right over here, you know, good old Halo. But yeah, that's what I'm doing. Just messing around with it.
That's incredible. Sorry. I wanted to
Seriously,
jump
this
in
is
and say that's
amazing.
incredible.
Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna mess with this right here. I don't know why that's not rotating. There you go. So yeah, use the Forerunner energy effect to get the base of what looks like water. And then I'm gonna go over to energy again. We'll go to, actually we'll go to the liquid effects. We'll go 4x4, got a 90, flip that on its side. Get something that looks like water. And then I'll add some smoke effects to this and try to make it as believable as possible. We need a water plane. That's what we need, Michael. We need water. We need
What's that?
I shouldn't have put you on the spot like that. I'm sorry. We need water. That's what we need in Forge.
More, oh.
Yeah.
Thanks. That's the first time I've heard that.
Is that the first time you heard that? All right. But yeah, that's basically what I'm gonna work on here. Let's see if we can get a steam fill effect in here. I think I gotta go to atmospherics for that.
Okay.
Yeah, he's put some fill steam up here. Add some. Oh, budget limit exceeded? Oh, please God, no. Add some down here. And it's starting to come together. Come back in a couple minutes and I'll show you it.
Sounds good. And I think Connor
Connor's
said he's ready over there.
So I'll walk
I might
around
just
here.
stay on the couch. This is really comfy.
All right, Connor, what do you got for us?
Okay, we got the first bits of this part of a RPG experience. So here's the idea: you'd be one player going around the map, and you would find little events around the world, and you can get experience or gold and then you could spend it on weapons and do other stuff. So the idea here is you walk up in this area, and there's this octagon, and you step inside and fight some bots. But before we can put the bots in, we got to give you the reward for it. So I've got two script brains here. This first one is going to create a variable on every player called experience. So now there's just a number being tracked for every player that says, here's how much EXP you have. I've got a little custom event that will show us the experience whenever it goes up. And it's basically going to push a splash message to the player, and that's like the stuff you see in the modes, but it'll say experience and give you the number. And I'll demo that here in a second, and then that's how we create it. So that's one little function we made, and then I've got one other one right now which lets us give experience. So reward XP to player. It's going to get the player and how much experience it's going to get, and then it's going to go do the math on their variable. So we're going to go get the number, add it to the number we're passing in, and then we're going to set it, and then we're going to show the display so the player can tell they've gotten it. And I've got this little thing up here that's going to trigger off the script in front of us, and it's going to give us something from this global variable. Bear with me, this will make sense in like 2 seconds, but essentially, whenever I push the switch, I'm going to get some XP, and then later we'll hook it up to when we kill bots. And that value right now is 5. So if I go into play mode, and I go push my switch, ooh, hear that good noise? Experience, 5. When I push it again, I'm going to get 10 experience. So when we come back, I'll be spawning some bots. You're going to jump down in here, push that, and trigger bots, and fight them until you die. But every time you kill one, you'll get some experience. So you can play the events in this like mini game map as many times as you want. So hopefully we'll have something more to show here in a bit.
Fantastic. That's incredible.
That is amazing.
Very nice work, Connor.
So
we do have a couple more community questions. Let's hear them.
Hello, so I wanted to ask something. So specifically in Halo 5, there was location volumes, and those would change the gate team chatter. It would even change the stronghold names and even your radar name. I was curious if there's anything similar to where, like, if you ping, how does the ping decide on a Forge map what it will say?
Yeah,
so
we
name
have
locations.
Name location volumes.
So they're still sorry.
No.
Are name locations still in?
Oh, they're totally still in.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe, Ryan, can you show off one of those? And there's a long list of strings that you can choose from when you put in a location volume. And they're all localized. So if you use attic, I don't know, something like that, it's localized. So any player all over the world will know that when they ping that, someone's in the attic.
Awesome. Great question.
Yep. He found one right there.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ryan.
So I have a question about the space canvas specifically. I was wondering if you guys would ever consider adding like zero-G physics to that canvas. I know that you can affect like how high the player jumps or whether or not an object is static, but if ever down the line you could have some sort of zero-G physics on that canvas specifically. And if not, what would you recommend for how to kind of simulate that in Forge?
So there's a question about adding different types of cameras.
Zero-G on the space canvas.
Oh, so yeah, right now you can set player traits via node graph, and one of those is there's the gravity value in there, and also how high players can jump. So you can also do that in custom games, I believe. So if you see things like Purple Rain is in the Social Slayer playlist right now, that's low grav with the Needler, for example. So yeah, definitely lots of possibilities there. Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you. Foge over here did say he had something else he found with some more barrels.
Yeah, so if it wasn't obvious already, Evan Coulson, the one who arted up this map, really loves, oh, that's the wrong piece, hydrogen barrels, which is very apparent. Nope, if I can grab it. This light fixture on the top here that goes all the way wrapped around the base, it's really just a giant scaled up hydrogen barrel crate that's originally this size. And another thing too is if you go outside, look outside the map here, You got this beautiful scenic satellites in the background, which are built into the background of the canvas itself, but as well as these other satellites, which, when you can't really tell from inside the map, but when you go outside, you break the illusion and they're kind of just floating there in the background. But to the player inside the map, it's completely unapparent that they are just floating out there in space. And another thing that's a fun one is this wall here that kind of gives nice structure to the support to the structure. If you actually look at it, it's really just this UNSC radar unit scaled all the way up to essentially just be a big wall that that's right here at this size, just ripped out into the back of the map.
This is so great to watch one forger tear apart another forger's map, right? I mean, this is what happens naturally, right? You all just share, and you're like, how'd you do that? And I did it this way. What's that? Cliff? We're going to check in with Cliff. I'll get casual here. This is looking good. So now what are you thinking? You got a little bridge piece here?
Yeah, I'm trying to solve this part of the map and how it connects to the rest, thinking about sight lines where people are going to be mounting up, taking power positions, how do you counter them, what kind of items you want to start placing on the map, so forth.
Cool. No, it's nice to see how quickly these things can come together under pressure even. I like this little back route here. Cliff's always been a champion of trick jumps. His maps are kind of like, they always have really interesting and fun ways to get around the map using some of the more advanced player mechanics. Oh, it looks like we get another question. Yeah, if y'all have more questions, please come up. Happy to entertain them.
Yeah, I've always thought Forge is the most powerful level editor in any game on the market. And I look at this in Infinite, and it literally just looks like a development tool to me. So I was wondering, how do you guys tackle a balance between this being a fun tool that any average player can use to just make something funky in custom games, but how do you balance that with also making it an in-depth tool that like an experienced person who wants to create a complex map or level, how do you guys strike a balance between those two things?
That's a great question, and it's a delicate balance, right? Like, obviously, we kind of leaned into the complexity, not like, we definitely want to support the players who already know how to play Forge, right? And we wanted to expand the functionality. So in that regard, this is a little more complex, right? But I think, you can open up a map like Argyle, right, as a new forger, and you can go, oh, I'm going to move some spawns around, or I don't like where the CTF, where the flag spawn is. You can start to dabble using the Forge maps, and then edit them and create your own experience from that. You could take Argyle and give the player infinite grapple, right, and then make the floor a kill, like a kill volume, right? And so now you don't have to recreate an experience or a map. You can just go, oh, the floor is lava, right? And I'm going to use, repulsors or grapples or whatever to get around the place. And so I think there's a lot of functionality there, or freedom as a new player to kind of dabble. You can also just go and look and search for other players' maps, right? And open those up and go, oh, I'm just going to build on this. Like, that's kind of the spirit of Forge anyway, right? People make things, they make experiences, they publish them, they're public, and then you go and you look at them and you're like, oh, I'm going to add grapple to this, or I'm going to do this, or what if all the spawns were rockets or something like that. So I think that's sort of how we approach that problem. Obviously, as we move forward, we're going to try and figure out, is it too difficult, or is it too easy, or whatever, right? And find a good balance and try and index into how we can help players further. Yep, of course. Thanks. Great question. Where are we at? Connor? Connor, are you ready for us?
I don't have anything to show yet, but I can walk you through the start. So we've got this switch, and this switch is what we need to spawn the bots. Remember, you're going to jump in, push the switch, the bots will start coming in, and then you'll have to fight for your life until you die. So we've got this switch hooked up inside this brain here. When you push this switch, it's going to trigger a custom event called Start Boctagon Event. Woo! We've got a couple variables, whether or not the event is active, and then how many bots we want to spawn. And I've got a chain here, and I'm still filling this out, so you'll be able to see it here in a second. But when we want to start the event, I'm going to toggle the Boctagon active variable on so the scripts can know, hey, this is happening. Then we're going to start spawning the bots, and then play some fanfare. And then, simultaneously, we're going to be monitoring every player who dies. If the player is not a bot, the person who died, it must be our player. Therefore, we're going to turn the event off and stop spawning the bots entirely. So I'm still putting that logic in, but I think the cool part is like none of these custom events exist in NodeGraph before. I'm just naming them and defining them. So it's really, really powerful because I can really name it according to the logic I want, and it's way easier to read what's happening compared to in Halo 5 where we had to kind of just read all the stuff, get it all in your head and say, oh, I see what's going on. Ideally, this will help comment stuff out a little bit more. So I'm really excited, and hopefully we'll, well, what I'm going to do here is now I'm putting in the start spawning bots event. So essentially we're going to go down here and say, when we spawn event, go through the number of bots, and let's add a bot to the team. So I can pick what team they're on. I'm going to want team 2 because the player is going to be on team 1. And every iteration, we're going to spawn a bot. And we're going to wait a little bit of time just to stagger them so that they don't all come in at once. So let's maybe say 6 seconds. I think that'll be a nice ramp up. And yeah, we can test this. We'll see if I have a compile error, though. Okay, here's the moment. There's one bot in. Okay, I'm fighting. Oh my gosh, I probably should have made them ODSTs. But there, yeah, I got 5 experience for the bot. Oh, and I died. That was fast. Okay, so maybe ODSTs are a little higher level for me right now, and then we don't have a way to turn them off yet. So I'm gonna leave play mode, which will clean up my mess, so I can go keep working on the script. So when you come back, we'll have the bots in. It might be a little easier. Maybe I'll play with some player traits, so I'm a little stronger, and we'll see how much experience I can rack up before I get overwhelmed. So let's see how this goes.
Love it. Good insight in how a designer thinks about an experience too. So thanks, Connor.
So Foge over here had something that he spotted on detachment. Another pretty funny one.
This actually might have been the one that, Michael, you were originally talking about. I always thought it was this dumpster, but when you look at all these walls, I slowly realized that they are all very stretched out dumpsters.
There it is. That's the dumpster.
You know, you look at this and you just see a very flat wall, but when you actually go into the properties of it and you stretch it out, that's roughly around right. Make it super flat, and there you go. There's your dumpster wall that if you just scale it a little bit more, you'll get an identical dumpster wall with a nice, interesting texture that doesn't look remotely anything like a dumpster, I guess, besides this nice little waste management thing that you might want to cover up like that or so.
And no one would ever know.
Yep.
All right, I think we got
Couple
2 more
questions.
community questions.
All right, so it's kind of like a double whammy question. So can you prefab scripts so you're able to move them across worlds? And then the other question was more or less for Connor. How would you recommend people starting to get into the scripting system that you guys have shown off so far? Just as like a base level, just dipping their toe in, I guess.
So cool. First question is scripted brain prefabs, correct?
Yes, you can make a prefab. You can attach a script brain to it, and you can share with other folks.
Nice.
And then, yeah, for Connor, some advice for beginning NodeGraph users?
So I think just on the prefab thing, yeah, just to be clear, you can prefab any scripts that you have and bring them to new maps. If you wanted to play the Boctagon on Ryan's map over there, or, well, the one he's deconstructing, you absolutely could. So yes, that's totally supported and intended. That's how we want you to make it easy to share scripts. I think the 2 ways to get into scripts, I think try to find like one little mechanic you want. You're like, hey, I want a door that opens, or I want a loot crate where I like open it and it gives me a weapon, like, or and just grants it when I push this switch. Like, try to pick one thing you want to do. There's already a lot of Halo YouTubers out there who are using the leak builds to make some really good stuff. And once it comes live, I think we're going to see even more of that. So watch your fellow creators, and honestly, like, just try something really small. And I think things that are really easy are giving weapons to people and like doing damage to objects, like blowing up somebody's warthog. So that would be my first thing, is always try to start with blowing it up.
It's good advice. And also, you'll be able to create scripts and share them, but that also means you can search for them. So if you're like, I want to make an elevator, there's probably someone out there that's made a prefab that does that, and you can probably just search for it and find it.
Cool, and then we got another.
Again. I just have two. One really easy. Will we ever get the enemies from campaign as bots in Forge?
Campaign AI. We talked about this a little bit yesterday.
We talked about it a little bit yesterday. It is top of mind. I can't talk about that right now, but we've heard the requests, and yeah, we'll see where we go with that.
The other one is scripting client side or host side. When it's ran.
It is scripting client side or host side.
Yeah.
Let's
let
go
the
to
scripting
Connor.
expert answer that one.
It is mostly server side. So, and basically what that means is you can play this in customs. It's not just something you can do by yourself. This will run in custom games on top of whatever else the mode is running.
Is the syncing kind
There you
of like you never have problems with desync with stuff going on? Is it pretty stable? Like, it doesn't often desync, or does it line up on per tick? Like, how does that work?
Going back to the expert.
Yes, that's why it's server side. So where you may run into issues would be if you want to move something into another player. That's when things can get a little iffy. But everything else that runs on the server is going to be good, essentially. So the more moving bits you have, the more chances you have for the client and the server to get out of sync. But if you want to give weapons to players, if you want to do stuff with game mode logic, grant points, zap a warthog with a bolt of lightning, like, that's all on the server, and that means it's going to run in sync with the rest of the game.
Cool. Thank you. Another great question.
We got another question.
One more.
Yeah.
So let's take one more and then kind of wrap up with what they've got going.
All right. Hey guys, how you guys doing?
Good.
When building new maps, how do you decide what game modes can be played on them? Like, currently we don't have like capture the flag on Aquarius, or not Aquarius. Capture the flag on streets, or like one flag on the streets. We don't have oddball on Aquarius. Like, how do you go in deciding what can be played on certain maps, or when building a new map, what wouldn't really work on that map?
So I think the question is, like, how do we decide what modes go on maps? Is that so that kind of comes about naturally through playtesting. You know, there's obviously the LDs and the designers have a lot of experience in playtesting. They kind of know what's going to work for one thing versus another. But then through playtesting, you know, we set these maps all up for the core modes, and we just test them, and we set them up as best as we can for what we think is going to work. And some things end up being super great, and some things are like, that's okay, right? And so, you know, the golden modes, I guess, you know, usually it's Slayer and CTF, which are the gold modes, but sometimes a map ends up being really, really good for strongholds, or, oh, this is perfect for oddball, right? And so it's a little bit of luck of the draw based on the geo and, you know, just the sandbox and what's going on. But it's kind of organic. It's a little bit of a black art to kind of understand what's working, and, you know, you end up with maps that are really good for some and maybe okay for others, and that's good, and that's fine.
We usually take the best and put them in matchmaking. Yeah.
Exactly.
But all maps can play all modes. Yeah.
Yep.
Typically.
Cool.
But Foj, I know you said you wanted to take a look at the art on this map a little bit. Some of the details that were added on detachment here.
Yeah, so you may notice all these details on the grounds, all these signages on the walls. These are decals, and decals are your friend. Without these, you're essentially just kind of looking at a phased red wall or a blank. Let's select all these here. It would look like that. Kind of boring, not too crazy, but, let's undo that, and boom, you suddenly have a much more detailed floor, all the decals around the map. Here's another good one. This would just be a blank, plain gray wall, but it adds kind of like a experience where it kind of feels like the map is more than just geometry or something explicit. It's got a feel to it, so it makes it almost feel like it would exist in real life.
Very cool. Thank you for that. And then, Infinite Fortress, are you ready for us to take a look? Do you want a little more time? A couple more minutes?
Maybe we do him last. Give him just a couple more minutes.
Okay. All right, we'll give him a couple more minutes if we want to take a look over on that side. Michael.
All right, Cliff, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. Yeah, so I think what I want to make up here is, this is where classically like the overshield would be mounted up on. So I'm like trying to make like an area where you grab the overshield, but you have to go to the lowest part of the map. And I'm trying to like also like when you're fighting out of it, like what are the interesting ways to like make decisions? Like I can either push back to the map and take shortcuts, but I'm having to fight up, or can I be able to decide to take a little bit longer of a route and do a jump up so kind of have like an even fight, take out the enemy and then advance forward. So I can continue like having to climb up to the map to get a power position, trade off to get power items, and then keep cycling through.
That's a fun loop for sure. That's looking great. Are we ready for Connor? The Boctagon.
I'm ready for it.
I can barely say that word.
All right, the final form of the Boctagon for today's demo. So we've got everything put together. I'll show the script really quick, actually. So just remember, when we click on this script, when we click on that button, there's a reference to the script, and when it gets interacted, it triggers our Start Boctagon event. That's now going to go down here. Anytime we subscribe to an event, we got the same name here. Flips it over to active, starts spawning the bots, and then it plays the Boctagon fanfare. So you guys saw that last time. So I've now got those in there. When we start spawning the bots, we're going to iterate through the number of bots we want to spawn. We're going to add them with Marine difficulty this time. I've learned my lesson. The humility is there. And we're going to put them on another team. And then I buffed up the time it's going to take between the bots because they were kind of kicking my butt too fast. And then we're also going to trigger the bot fanfare. And that one down here is just going to use another splash message. And we're going to say, survive the bots. And that'll kick up for 5 seconds. So I come up to this event in the world. I jump down and enter the ring. I'm going to pick up a weapon here.
Crispy shots, Connor. Very clean.
Much easier with a battle rifle this time.
And all this is giving you experience.
There it is. Okay, so I got 15 experience. Now, the thing is the thing I want to show is my experience carries over, right? This is a variable I defined, so as long as I don't leave play mode, I keep it. So if I do this again, one of the bots lived. Move them. But if I kill another bot, you can see that my experience has continued on.
Awesome. Yeah, sorry, we got to wrap it up soon.
That looks great, Connor. Infinite Fortress, you want to take a look at your map real quick because we are running short on time. It's looking real nice.
Well, can we tell him what happened?
So we did have a little technical hiccup, so he did restart, but it is looking very, very nice. So let's take a look at what he was able to do with an even shorter time frame than we had already anticipated.
So, yeah, I had a technical difficulty. I had to restart a little bit. But, yeah, you could see that there's just so many foliage options and the trees and overall the skyboxes and everything. I mean, this is on Arid. The ring, having it broken, I just think is gorgeous. Really good choice. The Forge Art team did a great job. And Yeah, just like a traditional Halo type of shot within 10 minutes. Yeah, no, you're good. You're good.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate you doing some speed builds or deconstructions here today on the community stage. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us for our live Forge demo. First time I think we've ever done that, so that was really
cool. This is the first time for sure. And let's give it up for these guys.
Yes, thank you.
They did a lot of great work under pressure. It's not easy to be up here, so thank you to the Forgers.
Cool. And thank you for the excellent community questions. Everyone, thank you so much for watching online as well. Hopefully you continue to tune into the community stage here or the epic action going over on the main stage. Thank you so much, and we will see you all for the next segment coming up soon.
Thank you.